how it all might end. Tensions are rising as focus is turning toward the Strait of Hormuz, a critical waterway which 20% of the world's oil passes through. Iran is said to be laying mines in the channel as the U.S. military says it has destroyed more than a dozen Iranian mine-laying ships.
At least 3 ships, including this Thai cargo ship seen here, have been attacked today near the Strait of Hormuz. But today, President Trump urged companies to keep moving their ships through that area. The Pentagon, meanwhile, is releasing new figures on the U.S. military's operation so far inside of Iran. CENTCOM Commander Admiral Brad Cooper says 5,500 targets have been struck to date, including 60 ships.
This afternoon, President Trump was asked what he thought it would take to end the war and what was left to strike.
More of the same, and we'll see how that all comes out. We're leaving certain things that if we take them out, or we could take them out by this afternoon, in fact, within an hour, they literally would never be able to build that country back.
Joining us now, NBC News international correspondent Danielle Hamamdjian in Beirut and NBC News senior national security correspondent Courtney Kube in Washington. Danielle, we'll start with you. Iran is threatening to attack any ship in the Strait of Hormuz, while the U.S. has struck Iran's mine-laying ships. So what exactly is happening there?
Yeah, and you said it's day 12, and incredibly, things are still moving at dizzying speed, not only here in Lebanon, but in Iran. And as you mentioned, the focus now on the Strait of Hormuz, where the U.S. military says it eliminated 16 Iranian mine-laying vessels, and Donald Trump warning that any mine laid there need to be removed. This now as well, first of all, remember that for Iran, the strategy here is to make this as costly as possible for the countries in the region, not only the countries in the region, but have global implications, global repercussions to this, drive traffic down, slow traffic down, rather, drive the cost of oil up. The UK Maritime Agency is saying that 3 vessels were hit by projectiles today. They also said that 13 ships were attacked in the Middle East since the beginning of this conflict. Iran also now is saying that it will attack the ports in the region if its own ports are attacked.
Courtney, let me bring you in now. You have some new reporting, kind of switching gears here, about that elementary school that we've been reporting on. It was attacked inside, or was hit inside Iran on the first day of the war. What do we know now about who's responsible?
Yeah, we've been following this ever since we first learned of this, as you mentioned, very early on in this war. You can see there what appears to be a munition, a U.S. munition, striking that school. We're learning now, is according to the preliminary findings of an ongoing military investigation, is it not only appears that the U.S. was likely responsible for the strike that hit that school, but it appears as if they may have had old intelligence, and that may have led to the targeting of the school. Now, when you talk about intelligence that feeds into a targeting package here, it often comes from multiple places. The Defense Intelligence Agency would be one. Oftentimes the U.S. pulls information from close allies when they're developing these targets, and then they verify them. What we do know is that school was actually built on a location that used to be an Iranian military base, and that may have also had something to do with this here. Again, this is the investigation. Is ongoing here, but these are the preliminary findings that we're hearing about, guys.
And it's not all isolated in Iran, right, Danielle? There's also a lot going on in Lebanon. Walk us through what you're seeing.
Yeah, so today a lot of people in central Beirut woke up to another renewed sense of panic. And the reason I say this is that, as you know, the strikes on Beirut have mostly focused on the Hezbollah stronghold called Dahya, which is behind me over the bay. But there's been increasingly a pattern by Israel to conduct targeted strikes outside of that area. So in Beirut proper, so in central Beirut along the seafront, there have been hotels that have been targeted. This morning, it was a residential building. And the target in many of these cases were IRGC members of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. Today, you know, first of all, the displacement here is on a scale that is simply staggering. More than 700,000 people displaced in a country of 6 million people. But the death toll is also quickly rising, especially among children. And we were given access today to a hospital in central Beirut where many of these kids are going to get treated blast injuries, shrapnel injuries, but they're also being treated alongside children who are injured in Gaza, also by Israeli strikes. And so they're finding themselves here in this hospital and hearing once again the sound of Israeli strikes not far away from where they are.
Yeah, really striking to see those images directly. Danielle Hamamdjian, Courtney Cuby, thank you both.
Let's bring in Brad Bowman now. He's a senior director at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Brad, good to see you again. Can we go back to where we started? We were talking about the Strait of Hormuz and everything that's going on there today. And to be quite clear, there's a lot of information flying around about how many boats have been hit and how many things have been done. And it's kind of hard to sort out what's happening. But can you speak to the danger in the region, given these threats from Iran and the possibility that Iran has laid mines?
Yeah, absolutely. So as most of your viewers know by now, this is one of the world's most important maritime choke points, one of the most important energy choke points, the Strait of Hormuz, connecting the Persian Gulf with the Gulf of Oman. And what we have right now is a situation where you have a lot of tankers inside the Persian Gulf that are loaded up with oil and other commodities, and they're eager to get out, but they can't get out safely, or they're concerned about getting out safely. On the other side, you have lots of vessels holding that are not full, but eager to go in and get their cargo, and they're concerned about going through because we've seen these attacks on ships. How does Iran threaten these ships? And by the way, this is not new. Iran has been the leading threat to freedom of navigation and maritime commerce in the Middle East for decades. They threaten them with typically 3 or 4 main means. One is missiles, so anti-ship missiles. Another is with drones. And we know that we've seen a proliferation of drones of all different sizes. And also mines, as you mentioned, and small and very quick attack boats that can have RPGs and other direct fire weapons on them. You mentioned mines. Mines come in different forms. You can have limpet mines that you have divers that connect, and then you have moored mines. You can actually have floating mines, which are particularly reckless and dangerous because they flow with the currents.
Wow. And to that end, I mean, we've heard from President Trump saying Iran's Navy has been destroyed. So can we talk through the threats the ships are facing here? Does Iran have other ways of attacking these ships?
Yeah, you're right to highlight that. According to Admiral Brad Cooper, we've, as in the last 24 hours, the U.S. has damaged or destroyed more than 60 Iranian vessels, along with overall 5,500 targets hit. But unfortunately, Iran still has the means to attack these vessels with drones and with mines, and we have seen some mines laid. And so even if we eliminate the missiles, cleaning up these mines safely is a major task and will take a lot of time and will not be risk-free.
All right, Brad Bowman for us. Brad, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
And dozens of countries have announced they are releasing a combined 400 million barrels of oil from their reserves.
All 32 countries, part of the International Energy Agency, all agreed unanimously on the decision as the price of oil ticks up amid the war with Iran. It is the largest release of emergency stockpiles in the history of the IEA, and it is more than double what it released back in 2022 after Russia invaded Ukraine.
Let's bring in NBC News senior business correspondent Christine Romans. Christine, as we just said, the release of these reserves is historic. Walk us through maybe the reasoning. Why now? What are they trying to get at with this historic release?
I think the size of it tells you just how concerned they are about a prolonged conflict and what that's going to do to global energy supplies. Look, these are oil supplies in storage for war or an emergency, and they're tapping that here. So that shows you they want to make sure there's supply moving out into the market to mitigate this 20 million barrels a day that's not moving through the Strait of Hormuz right now.
And Christine, big picture, just how much is 400 million barrels of oil in the grand scheme of things?
It sounds like a lot. Patrick DeHaan over at Gas Buddy, he says, like, more important than the size is how quickly they can get it on the market. And we don't have any details about that. So watch this space there. But 400 million barrels, so 20 million barrels a day goes through the Strait of Hormuz and it's stuck. 400 million barrels is essentially 3 or 4 days of global demand. 3 or 4 days.
Interesting. Okay. And so as a result of all this, we've seen gas prices go up. Let's say, hypothetically, things settle down with Iran. How long would it take for the prices to go back?
So I think at this point, we're trying to figure out how slowly the increases will be from here. I think we're expecting more increases, but slower than we saw last week. The hope is you avoid $4 a gallon for a gallon of regular in the U.S. for now, if you can keep oil prices below 90. But it's pretty unpredictable situation. No one knows exactly for sure. And we do know the gas prices and oil prices tend to rise more quickly than they fall. There's still an awful lot of uncertainties out there. So that could keep oil prices at least elevated for now. And then, of course, oil is what you make gas out of.
Right. All right, Christine Romans, thank you.
Coming up, a new report out today.